Let me ask you a question. What if everything you ever wanted, every dream, every breakthrough, every ounce of greatness you were born to create was already within reach, but hidden behind the fog of indecision? What if the only thing standing between you and your potential was a decision you've been avoiding? Not 100 steps, not a 10-year plan, just one bold, absolute decision to see your life with total clarity and never look away again. Because clarity is not given. It's forged in the fires of purpose, in the silence of reflection, in the resistance of discipline. And it always starts with the same thing, choosing to stop drifting and deciding to take the wheel. And yet most never do. Most people live like ships with no compass, drifting from moment to moment, from idea to idea, forever reacting, never creating, waiting for the world to reveal their purpose instead of declaring it themselves. But you were not built to drift. You were built to decide. Clarity is not about knowing every step ahead. It's about seeing where you stand and daring to define where you're going. Most people want certainty. Few choose clarity. But clarity isn't the same as certainty. Certainty says, I know what's coming. Clarity says, I know who I am and I know what I will do no matter what comes. That's the decision, the single unshakable decision that sharpens everything else. Do you think Edison had a map to the light bulb? No. What he had was clarity, that he would solve the problem, that he would invent it, no matter how many failures. And so he made one decision. He would not stop until the world had light. 10,000 failures couldn't blur that. Do you think Lincoln had clarity about every law he would write, every battle he'd fight? No. What he had was clarity of purpose, that the Union would be preserved, that freedom would stand. That purpose became his compass, because when you have clarity, the path might twist, but the direction never changes. But clarity comes at a price. You must give up distraction. You must give up the illusion of someday. You must give up comfort masquerading as certainty. And you must be willing to face the truth about your own life without sugarcoating it. Clarity does not tolerate lies. It does not allow you to keep hiding behind busy. It forces you to look at the work you're avoiding, the goals you've delayed, the greatness you've silenced inside of you. And that's why most people fear clarity, because it holds a mirror that shows the gap between who you are and who you could be. But if you can stand in front of that mirror and not flinch, you become unstoppable. Because the world is starving for people who live with intention, people who know what they're building, people who don't need external permission to start, people who sharpen their lives like a blade with relentless focus. It's not that they have more time. It's not that they're smarter. It's not that they're luckier. It's that they decided. And in that decision, everything aligned. Do you know why most people feel lost? It's not because they're lazy. It's because their vision is blurred by noise. They're pulled in 1,000 directions, scrolling, comparing, consuming, listening to opinions that mean nothing, following paths that aren't theirs, drowning in data, starving for meaning. And in that chaos, clarity is suffocated. But the greats, those who build legacies, those who change history, they make a decision to simplify. They cut the noise, they define what matters, and then they commit to it with everything they have. Ford decided he would put the world on wheels before the world believed it was possible. Disney decided imagination could become an empire before the world saw it as more than fantasy. Jobs decided design could marry technology before anyone saw the need. They didn't wait for clarity to come. They summoned it. And once it arrived, they never let it go. So let me ask you again, what decision have you been avoiding? What clarity have you postponed? What vision have you buried under doubt, distraction, and delay? Because you will never create what you can't see clearly. You will never lead what you won't define. You will never finish what you won't start. And you can't start without a decision. Your legacy will not be written by what you hope to do. It will be written by what you chose to do. You see, the moment you make a decision with total clarity, your life begins to reorder itself around it. Suddenly, the excuses lose power. The distractions lose flavor. The doubts start to fade, not because they disappear, but because your direction becomes louder than your fear. Every powerful creator has one thing in common. They are ruthless with their clarity. They wake up with it, they walk with it, they protect it like treasure. Because they know without it, they become reactionary. But with it, they become legendary. Clarity is the quiet force behind greatness. It's what lets a person go through hell and still keep walking. It's what lets a visionary build through failure, criticism, and collapse, because they can still see the mountain even in the storm. When you sharpen clarity, you stop chasing 100 things. You pursue one thing fully, and in that focus is power. And it all starts with a decision, not a feeling, not a burst of motivation, a decision, final, non-negotiable, absolute. And here's the truth. Once you decide who you are and what you will do deeply, fully, your identity shifts. You become the person who builds that vision, who keeps their word, who walks with purpose, who acts with discipline, even when it's hard. Because that's the secret. Clarity is not just mental. It's spiritual, it's identity level. It's the sword you carry into battle and the mirror you stare into every night. It sharpens your mind, it purifies your actions, it elevates your energy, it turns scattered potential into focused momentum. You don't have to wait for a sign. You don't need permission from your past. You don't need to know how the whole staircase looks. You just need to decide, this is who I am now, and this is what I do. And from that one decision, everything begins. And when it begins, really begins, you'll feel something ancient awaken inside you. Not the shallow thrill of a motivational high, but the steady hum of destiny aligning. It's the resonance Tesla felt as he paced the hotel room in the dead of night, sketching coils of lightning on scraps of paper. It's the same current that ripped through Rosa Parks as she refused to surrender her seat, setting a nation on fire with a single unequivocal no. It's the pulse that drove Mandela to dream of freedom while his skin blistered under the Robben Island sun. That hum is not hype. It's the frequency of unwavering conviction broadcast from the core of your being out into the field of limitless possibility. When you tune your life to that signal, the universe reorganizes to meet you. Where you once saw fog, the path glows like wet steel beneath moonlight. Where you once saw obstacles, you now see obstacles shaping you, chiseling your resolve into marble. Because clarity is not comfort, clarity is confrontation. It drags every ghost from the shadows, every limiting belief, every excuse you've nurtured, and forces them into daylight. You will be tempted to flinch. Do, not flinch. Meet them like Churchill, staring down the Blitz, refusing to evacuate London while bombs whistled overhead. Stand in your truth, like a lighthouse, unmoving, unapologetic, guiding your own soul through the storm. But clarity alone is not enough. A blade, no matter how sharp, is useless if it never strikes the target. That is where decision must fuse with discipline. Discipline, the daily, deliberate sculpting of reality. Discipline, the habit of choosing the vision over the craving, the mountain over the mattress, the legacy over the lullaby. Alexander the Great crossed deserts that cooked men's blood beneath their armor because his discipline was married to his direction. He drank the dust of hardship and called it wine, for he had tasted conquest in his mind long before his boots touched foreign sand. Likewise, your discipline must taste victory in advance, savor the sweetness of goals already achieved, then march your body to collect the harvest your mind has seen. But what if I fail? You whisper. You will. Many times. Failure is the toll you pay for passage into mastery. Ask Walt Disney, fired for lacking imagination. Ask Oprah, told she was unfit for television. Ask Jack Ma, rejected by 30 companies, including KFC. Failure is not the opposite of clarity. Failure is clarity's refiner's fire. Each misstep burns away the dross of illusion and leaves the gold of accurate self-assessment. It teaches you to recalibrate, innovate, pivot like Musk, watching rockets detonate, then launching them again because Mars is non-negotiable. So you iterate. You adapt, you evolve. And in the furnace of relentless iteration, gratitude must be your cooling water. Gratitude tempers ambition, keeping it from warping into arrogance. It reminds you that you stand on the shoulders of giants in the toil of nameless souls, the miner who carved copper for your phone, the coder who wrote unseen libraries, the farmer who grew your breakfast. Express gratitude and clarity sharpens further. You see resources where others see randomness. You realize the world is conspiring to assist the committed. Then comes resilience, the elastic force that snaps you back into motion when life tries to flatten you. Picture a bamboo forest in a typhoon. Each stalk bows until its leaves kiss the earth. Yet when the wind retires, it rises unbroken. Be bamboo. Resilience is not hardness. Hardness shatters. Resilience is flexible strength, born of a mind that knows setbacks are side quests, not dead ends. Now listen, here's the paradox few understand. True clarity demands continuous learning. The decision that ignites you today must be rekindled with new knowledge tomorrow. Carnegie devoured books on steel chemistry. Einstein played with thought experiments until space-time bent beneath his pen. And Hill himself interviewed 500 titans to distill one philosophy. Your mind must remain a student even as your spirit commands like a general. How then do you sustain this infinite ascent? By forging rituals that lock clarity into your nervous system. Morning stillness, 10 silent minutes before dawn, breathing your vision into your lungs. Nightly reflection, a page of brutal honesty, what aligned, what drifted, what must be reforged tomorrow. Physical mastery, sweat that baptizes the body into obedience, proving daily that you can do hard things on demand. Service, directing a slice of your power toward lifting another soul, because significance without contribution is spiritual bankruptcy. These rituals are not trendy hacks, they are anchors. Anchors held by every era's achievers, from stoic gladiators rehearsing death to Google's founders scheduling no meeting Fridays for deep work. With anchors in place, clarity becomes self-perpetuating flywheel gathering speed. Momentum mounts, small wins stack, doubt decays. And suddenly you find yourself operating in a rarefied state flow, that quantum channel where action feels like art and minutes dilate into masterpieces. Scientists call it transient hypofrontality. You'll know it as divine synergy. The mind quiets, the critic sleeps, and creation streams like molten gold. This is why one decision matters. It grants you access to flow more often than the indecisive will ever taste. The undecided are stuck at the threshold, fiddling with keys they never committed to turning. You have kicked the door open, and once through that door, a final force awaits legacy. Legacy is clarity projected beyond your lifespan. It is the echo of your existence reverberating in tomorrow's chambers. Gutenberg never met the millions who'd read because of his press. Hedy Lamarr never streamed a film through the Wi-Fi her patents made possible. You, too, may never meet those your decision will liberate. But understand this, the ripple is real. In the ledger of eternity, intentions die with you. Decisions live on in other people's possibilities. So ask yourself now, with all masks stripped away, when the dust of your years settles, will the next generation thank you for choosing clarity or curse you for choosing comfort? Pause. Listen to your heartbeat. That rhythm is a countdown you cannot slow. Every tick is a question, decide or delay. And every answer draws your legacy closer to light or oblivion. Choose light. Choose now. Stand. Straighten your spine. Inhale a breath forged of resolve. And declare aloud so the marrow of your bones vibrates with conviction. I decide to live with total clarity. I decide to guard that clarity with unwavering discipline. I decide to transform that clarity into relentless action, resilient adaptation, and enduring legacy. Feel the air charge around you as intention ossifies into oath. In this instant, you are reborn as architect and warrior mind, on fire, purpose in hand, path illuminated. From this point forward, let doubt knock but never enter. Let fear whisper but never dictate. Let distraction beckon, but never seduce. Because your clarity, sharpened by a single monumental decision, cuts through all lesser noise like a comet cleaving night. Carry that sword into dawn. Carve monuments of meaning from the raw marble of existence. And when history turns its head to ask who dared to sculpt the impossible, let it find your fingerprints bold, indelible, pressed into the bedrock of a life well decided. And now that the decision is made, the air tastes different. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. That's the secret the average never learns. They wait for conditions to change before they move. They wait for the weather, the economy, the approval, the timing. They wait until all green lights stretch out for miles before they even consider putting the key in the ignition. But the uncommon, the rare few who rise above circumstance, they move first. They act, and in acting, they create the weather. They generate the economy. They influence the timing. See, clarity doesn't promise an easy path that guarantees a direct one. It cuts through complexity. It says, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. And I will either find a way or make one. The moment you embrace that identity, the excuses that used to chain you start to rust and fall. You stop playing small because you finally see how much of life you were surrendering to fear masquerading as logic. And fear cannot survive in the presence of clarity. It dissolves because fear feeds on confusion, on ambiguity, on blurred vision. But you are done being blind to your own power. You stepped into the command center of your soul. You seized the controls. And now, even if the path ahead is filled with smoke and noise and resistance, you move forward anyway. That is the difference between the dreamer and the doer. The dreamer waits for clarity to come like a lightning strike. The doer decides to be lightning. Look around you. The world is not short on talent. It's not short on ideas, ambition, resources, or opportunity. What the world is short on, painfully short, on is people who know what they're about. People who walk into a room and you can feel their focus. People who don't have to say a word before you already know. This person is building something and nothing will stop them. People like that don't just get results, they bend the curve of history. So what does that look like in your life? It looks like alignment. Your thoughts, your speech, your actions, your calendar, your energy all pointed in the same direction like arrows in flight. No more fragmentation. No more half-hearted effort. No more saying one thing and doing another. Because clarity makes you whole again. It gathers the scattered parts of you, the hesitant part, the tired part, the distracted part, and it says, we are going this way now. It brings order to the chaos within. And from that inner order, outer excellence is born. Let this settle deep into your bones. There will be days when your vision blurs, when doubt creeps in like fog under the door, when the world throws curveballs, detours, and delays. On those days, don't panic. Don't retreat. Don't quit. Return to the decision. Let it be your compass. Let it be your sword. Let it be your lighthouse in the storm. Because the decision wasn't a moment, it was a rebirth. It wasn't an idea, it was an identity shift. You are no longer the person who waits. You are the person who moves. You are no longer the person who flinches. You are the one who fights. Not for ego, not for applause, but for alignment, for living a life that means something. That kind of life is rare, it is precious, and it is yours, now if you protect it. With discipline, with execution, with grace. And don't confuse grace for weakness. Grace is power under perfect control. Grace is the strength to rise without needing to shout. It is the presence of clarity expressed through calm confidence. You don't need to prove yourself when you're walking in alignment. You don't need to chase validation when you've already approved your own mission. You don't need to beg the world to notice you when you've already decided to make your mark. Because clarity doesn't scream. It radiates. And as you move through your life with that energy, the right doors will open. Not because you begged, but because your energy called them into alignment. The right people will come. The right opportunities will arrive. Not because you hoped, but because your focus became a magnet. You don't chase, you attract, not through passivity, but through certainty. Let that settle. Let it burn. Let it refine you, and then take it further. Because clarity, once found, must be renewed. Every morning is another invitation to choose again, to sharpen the edge of your decision, to recommit, to cut away the noise that crept in overnight, to wake up and say, this is still who I am, this is still what I do. That's how empires are built, tone, aligned, sunrise at a time. Every single titan of history knew this. Carnegie, who met each day with focused intensity. Beethoven, who composed through deafness. Franklin, who structured every hour with ruthless precision. And you can stand in that lineage. You are no less capable. You are no less chosen. You are the result of millions of years of survival, resilience, and evolution. You are lightning waiting to be released. You are a force waiting to be directed. And now, because you decided you are dangerous to mediocrity, you are lethal to delay. You are death to doubt. So go now. Step into the world, not as someone waiting for their moment, but as the person who creates it. Sharpen your clarity every day like a blade. Honor it like a vow. Use it like fire to warm, to light, to forge. And when people look at your life one day, years from now, they won't say they got lucky. They'll say they decided. And from that decision, everything changed. Not just for them, but for everyone their clarity touched. This is not just motivation. This is not just inspiration. This is transformation sealed by a single undeniable truth. Sharpening total clarity starts with a single decision. Let me take you even deeper, beyond motivation, beyond strategy, beyond any tactic the world sells you. Because clarity, once decided upon, demands embodiment. It's not enough to speak it. You must become it. Your clarity must be visible in your walk, heard in your tone, carved into your choices, and unshakable in your silence. There is no halfway clarity. There is no such thing as almost certain. To live in power, your clarity must become absolute. And when it does, something profound happens. The world starts treating you differently, not because it has changed, but because you have. See, energy doesn't lie. And when you walk in total clarity, people feel it before they understand it. They recognize something in you that they've long abandoned in themselves. Conviction, direction, power. Not the loud, boastful kind, the quiet, immovable kind. The kind that doesn't explain itself, it just moves mountains. And that's when clarity transcends being a mindset, it becomes magnetism. It draws the right allies, filters out the noise, exposes the distractions, and protects your momentum. You no longer seek approval. You give yourself authority. Because here's what the masses never understand. You don't need a permission slip to become great. You don't need consensus to build your legacy. You don't need anyone to agree with your clarity. You just need to honor it daily. You just need to wake up and remember, the world doesn't owe you your vision. You owe the world your execution. Let's talk about execution, because clarity without action is the same as fog. It looks impressive in theory, but in practice it blinds you. Action is the bridge between your decision and your destiny. Every single day, you either walk that bridge or you sit at the edge, convincing yourself that tomorrow will be easier. But tomorrow is just today, recycled. And the only way to change it is to move. Massive clarity gives birth to massive action. Not scattered busyness, not frantic motion, aligned, deliberate, focused, the kind of action that breaks inertia and creates a feedback loop of belief. You don't wait until you feel confident. You act until confidence becomes your default. You don't wait until you feel ready. You move until readiness arrives in your shadow. Because momentum is the hidden magic. Once in motion, you are hard to stop. And that is the most dangerous thing you can become to mediocrity. A human being in motion, guided by clarity, armed with discipline, and powered by purpose. And don't mistake motion for noise. Real progress is often quiet. It's early mornings when the world is still asleep. It's late nights spent refining your craft while others binge distractions. It's the skipped parties, the ignored trends, the rejected shortcuts. Because when you live in clarity, sacrifice is no longer painful. It's proof. Proof that you are committed. Proof that you are willing. Proof that you are different. And when others start noticing that difference, when they start asking, what changed about you? What's gotten into you? You don't need to answer. They'll see it in the work, in the transformation, in the consistency, in the legacy that begins to take shape before their very eyes. That's when clarity becomes identity. Not something you practice, something you are. You are the one who moves when others hesitate. You are the one who executes while others plan. You are the one who decides and then builds. And one day, mark these words, there will come a moment when everything clicks. Not because the work got easier, but because you got stronger, more aligned, more precise, more unshakable in your direction. That moment is sacred. You'll stand in the middle of your own life, look around, and recognize it as your creation. No more randomness, no more reacting, just reality shaped by clarity. And in that moment, you'll feel what all the greats felt, not pride, not ego, but something deeper. Peace. Peace. Not because the road was easy, but because it was true. Peace, not because everything worked out perfectly, but because you did not betray yourself. You made the decision. You honored it. You built upon it. And now you stand inside the very thing you once only imagined. That's the true power of clarity. Not what it does for you, but what it awakens in you. And so I ask again, with every fiber of this message resonating in your soul, what will you decide right now? Not tomorrow, not later. Now, what fog will you cut through? What vision will you finally declare not as a hope, but as a non-negotiable? What truth will you rise into? What legacy will you begin by dreaming, but by deciding? You know the answer. You've always known. You were just waiting to become bold enough to say it. And now you are. You've waited long enough. The world's been waiting too. It's time to rise. Time to choose. Time to burn the boats and build the future. Because sharpening total clarity starts with a single decision. And you just made it. Clarity is not a destination. It's a discipline. It's not a one-time lightning strike. It's a fire you must keep feeding. Because the moment you stop feeding it, the world will try to dim it. Not maliciously, just passively, through comfort, through distraction, through the gravitational pull of the mediocre. Every billboard, every algorithm, every voice calling for your attention is not neutral, it's friction. Friction against your clarity. Friction against your decision. And if you're not vigilant, you'll begin drifting subtly, quietly into the sleepwalk of average. That's why the decision must be daily. You don't decide just once. You decide again and again until it becomes who you are, until the friction becomes fuel, until distraction becomes a trigger to go deeper, not shallower, until every external voice fades under the volume of your own internal certainty. Look closely at those who sustain greatness. You'll notice something most miss. Their clarity is not just personal, it's patterned. They don't just rely on motivation. They install systems. They create rituals of resilience. They build scaffolding around their goals so they can keep building even on days they feel empty. You think Kobe wanted to shoot 800 free throws every morning? No. He decided he was the kind of man who did. That was his clarity. So even when his body screamed, his identity answered. You think Da Vinci waited to feel inspired before he painted? No. His clarity was his religion. He studied anatomy, optics, mechanics, not because he had to, but because clarity demanded it. They weren't dabbling. They weren't trying. They were what they decided to become. And that is the next level. When you no longer act like someone trying to get clear, but you move, speak, work, and live like someone who already is, you begin to walk with a quiet inevitability. People feel it before they understand it. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're not asking the world for permission. You've already granted it to yourself. And here's the truth. Once you operate from clarity, you stop fitting in. You become too focused for gossip, too intentional for small talk, too committed to play victim. You stop chasing people who were never meant to walk your path anyway. You start building alone, in silence. And eventually, the world starts noticing what you've become. They'll say, you've changed. They'll say, you seem different. Let them. You are. That's what happens when you stop being a product of your environment and become the architect of it. But even the architect has enemies. You will face resistance seen just from the world, but from within. Your old patterns, your comfort mechanisms, your addictions to distraction, to being liked, to staying small. They will return like ghosts whispering, don't go too far. Don't lose who you were. Don't make others uncomfortable. But here's the truth. You're not here to preserve your former self. You're here to evolve. And evolution, by its very nature, destroys what came before. Let old versions of you burn. Let old beliefs collapse. Let old habits wither. Because what rises in their place will be forged, focused, and free. This is why clarity is not a casual thing. It is not a weekend seminar. It is not a vision board you tape to the wall and forget by spring. It is war, a war between your higher self and every excuse you've ever believed. A war between your future and your fear. And clarity is the sword you carry into that battlefield. But you don't fight just to fight. You fight to win, to conquer every inch of potential left unlived. To live so intentionally, so fiercely, that regret has no room to exist. And if you think that kind of life is reserved for the gifted, think again. It's not about talent. It's about choice. It's not about fate. It's about focus. It's not about where you started. It's about what you refuse to stay. So now let's get practical. Let's take that roaring clarity and start building structure around it. You must codify your clarity. Write it, speak it, schedule it. Turn it into decisions, routines, standards. Turn your vague dream into measurable action. If your vision doesn't live on your calendar, it doesn't exist. If your purpose doesn't dictate your day, you're not living it, you're just wishing. And clarity doesn't tolerate wishers. It honors workers. Every single day is a canvas. And clarity holds the brush. You don't wait for inspiration. You train your hand to paint anyway. No matter how tired, no matter how distracted, no matter how discouraged. Because greatness doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. You want to know what separates the legendary from the merely successful? It's not luck. It's not raw intelligence. It's the willingness to live in radical alignment without apology. When they wake up, they don't ask, what do I feel like doing today? They ask, what must be done to become who I said I would be? Their emotions don't run their schedule. Their vision does. Their distractions don't get a vote. Their mission is not up for negotiation. That's how you become unstoppable. Not by eliminating all resistance, but by becoming stronger than it. And you can't do that without clarity as your shield, your compass, your creed. Now hear me. You don't need more time. You don't need more credentials. You don't need another book, another course, another permission slip. You need ownership. Because here is the final truth that separates the few who build empires from the many who bury their dreams. Your clarity is your responsibility, not your family's, not your mentors, not your partners. Yours. If you're unclear, it's on you to get clear. If you're drifting, it's on you to grab the wheel. If you're lost, it's on you to decide what matters and what must die. And when you do, when you finally own your life instead of renting it from the expectations of others, you begin to emit something the world cannot ignore. A frequency, a fire, a force. You become inevitable. And here's what no one tells you until you've earned the scars of the journey. Clarity will cost you everything that wasn't meant for your future. It will cost you your comfort. It will cost you your distractions. It will cost you your false identities. It will cost you proximity to the people who only loved you for your confusion. But what you gain in return is everything. Your energy will no longer be drained by indecision. Your days will no longer be dictated by doubt. Your mind will no longer be held hostage by the noise of 1,000 opinions. You'll wake up knowing exactly who you are, exactly what you do, exactly why you're here. And when the world tests you, and it will, you look it in the eye and say, I've already decided. Let them question you. Let them doubt you. Let them laugh, criticize, misunderstand. You don't answer to the noise. You answer to the decision. And the decision is done, etched in the stone of your soul, unshakable, irreversible, non-negotiable. No turning back, no shrinking down, no dimming your light to make others comfortable. From here on out, your life is a message, a monument to what happens when a single human being says, I will not live by default. I will not surrender to average. I will not spend this life wondering what might have been. I will live with total clarity. I will act with ruthless precision. I will walk like I was chosen for something eternal. And when they ask me, what changed you? I'll tell them, nothing changed me. I changed everything because I made the decision. So now go. Build the thing they said couldn't be built. Become the person they said couldn't exist. Walk into rooms where you used to shrink and own the space. Wake up every day like it was designed for you to create history. Because it was. Because you were. You weren't born to wonder. You were born to decide. You weren't born to hesitate. You were born to build. You weren't born to guess. You were born to see clearly and move. And now you will, because now you understand. Sharpening total clarity starts with a single decision, and you've already made it. Now live it.